What do you do when you have your planner, but you only have a few minutes to actually plan? What is like the most important thing? What do you share? What do you don't share? How do you make it the most intentional few minutes of your day? This is what we're going to be talking about in today's video, especially if you're a beginner and you only have a couple of minutes. What are the tools and how, like, what is it that you actually end up recording in your planner? And what is something that you can kind of come back to later and sort of fine tune? So if you're interested, then just stay tuned and let's get right into it. Hey guys, what's happening? It's Meshi with Meshi TV. I'm so glad that you are here. I'm so happy to see you once again. If you are brand new, first of all, well, thank you so much for coming by. I so appreciate you. Basically on this channel, we do all sorts of things, but really we're all about living more intentionally, living with intention, really. And sometimes we talk about minimalist planning, like in this video. Other times we practice yoga, and I also do some general oracle readings so that we can stay a little bit more grounded, a little bit more connected. So if that sounds good, you would probably really enjoy it here. So here's the idea that came to me, and I actually came up with this last night, that sometimes I actually don't have a ton of time to sit down and do the full like 20, 30 minute, 1 hour journaling session or planning session. But sometimes I really like to use really specific tools if I'm really short on time. So these are the things that I really wanted to share with you, because it can get, like, all of the things that you can get for your planner can get so overwhelming. I don't know about you. It feels like, you know, there's a new shiny thing that's coming out, you know, every single day, really, like with the best inserts and then the best accessories and the best page flags and like translucent, whatever. So I just wanted to kind of narrow it down and really what can you actually like record here, so that it not only gets all of the things out of your head and onto paper, so it becomes a lot more of a functional tool, but then also you're using it with intention. So to me, this is more of a, essentially, a lot of the times this actually becomes more of a ritual than it becomes more of a productivity tool. While it is a productivity tool, but I also take notice of how I'm relating to this tool in itself. And I think that it's very important to know that not many people actually talk about that, of how does it actually make you feel. And when you're feeling really rushed, it can feel like you're not only running out of time, but it can, to me at least, I don't know if you guys relate to this, it can be really anxiety inducing, where I just feel like I don't have time to actually sit down and plan. But it's very important that I kind of revisit this on a regular basis, because if I don't, then, you know, then I tend to actually forget things. So this is what I end up using. Now, one of the first things that I wanted to show you is these little sticky notes, and there is a graph grid, there's dot grid, and they're lined. So it depends on like which one you end up gravitating towards. These are fantastic for quick, I use them for quick little reminders of something that I really don't want to forget. So this is something that I would use if I want like a quick little reminder, and I would either place it here at the very front of my planner, or I would literally open up the day itself. So let's say we're on Tuesday, and I would stick it right here. And sometimes actually the bigger the better. So obviously if I'm putting a huge sticky note here, it will absolutely stand out. So that would be like the first thing that I would recommend, is if you're running really short on time and you need a quick little brain dump, to use these little sticky notes in a most functional way. The other ones that I really like using as well sometimes are some of these bigger ones, because they're colored, which it used to annoy me, but actually I find that if it's colored, so these things, you've seen me talk about these page flex sets like a million times really, but I like these, not so much that I can write on them and try to struggle through it. When I'm running short on time, I actually don't care too much about that. I would literally just highlight a section, because look how much it stands out. Now my eye naturally draws to what's colored here, and then I can go ahead and, you know, address that section of my planner. So these would be like my number one tip, first and foremost. The other thing that I do regularly is actually, let me open up an area that hasn't been written in, is to address my weekly layout, but even more specifically to address my note section. Not so much my priorities, because a lot of times I actually have more than 3 priorities. And to me, like this 3 priorities for the week, it doesn't really work well for me, so I tend to kind of ignore this. But here, this note section, where I feel like this can become almost like a brain dump, and I can section them off for business, for health, for social media, for any ideas that I have for YouTube. But the thing is that I end up not using this section fully for writing all of the things. I would write like small little keynotes. So I'll show you what I had for this week. I end up kind of color coordinating them, and I end up using these little teardrops when I have time. So this is optional. Especially when I'm writing this much detail, that's very optional. One thing that I generally try not to skip so much is the note section on a daily, which we'll talk about in a second. But here, I like to use these linen drops. So this is, these are like the teardrops from Cloth and Paper. I also have them in smaller as well from other shops. These are big, I find them easily, and then I can just kind of section them off. And if I can't find these stickies, then I generally just go with a highlighter and I just kind of create dots so that it sections things off for me. This is important for me when not everything that I have in my head are relating to the same category. Some of it relates to home, some of it relates to fitness, and some of it relates to business, or some of it relates to social media. So as you can see, like, I don't like having my ideas jumbled. I kind of like to categorize them. And when I do, then I realize that, oh, actually, there isn't too many things that are going on in one set category in my life, so it's not that big of a deal. That brings me to my daily. Do I actually plan out my full daily? No, I don't. Well, kind of I do, but I don't do that if I'm in short on time. I literally only maybe color coordinate it, or if I know ahead of time. If I know ahead of time that I'm going to be working on, you know, I have an interview coming up or I have a specific appointment, then I make sure that, yes, I do notate that, and I like to write that down into the schedule, and I like to color coordinate that section just so that I don't forget when I'm looking at it on that day. But beyond that, I kind of leave this alone, and then the day of, I kind of revisit it, I color coordinate it, and then I add any additional notes, any additional appointments that are actually coming up. Now, the other thing that I also wanted to mention that has been super helpful, if I have a little bit more time, and I find this, maybe you have found this too, where on, let's say, a Sunday, you're looking at your planner and it becomes the most anxiety-inducing activity because your thoughts are racing and you have a way of just getting away from you. Is it just me? Okay, cool. I started using this brain dump, and I mentioned this in my previous video. I don't know where I put the actual insert. I think I actually got it out of my planner, but I started using this where I would just start jotting down my ideas here on the side, and I just kind of let them rip. I just let it rip, and I would kind of come back here and do like the general outline of how those ideas are connected to each other, if they are, and what my general outline is of what I'm actually thinking. So this has been really helpful when I get sidetracked or distracted. So I'll give you an example. Like on a Sunday, I might be looking at my weekly plans, but then through the weekly plans, I remember, oh, I actually need to do a finance update, and I hop over to do a finance update, which I know I'm not going to be doing on a Sunday night. I would set aside a specific time for that. But then from there, there's an idea that comes up for a business opportunity. And then I would kind of like, I would feel like, oh my God, like, I don't know where to put that idea. So this is where this idea comes in, or just general quick reminders that are related to business, related to social media, related to like course creation or anything like that. I would use this space because I feel like it's not restrictive. Now, some of you might be like, okay, that's not how my brain works. And that's totally cool. I'm just really sharing with you, like, what would I do if I don't have a ton of time? I would also add like one last thing here before I let you go, is that I actually don't do the color coordination until I actually have some time to do that, because I want to make sure that I have a key, and I want to make sure that then I can kind of reflect the entire week. So I really like to do week planning versus day planning. And I learned that a long time ago, where I really, really hate doing like the daily, like, let me go through this on a day-to-day basis. I like to add things on a daily basis, but I don't like to do like the full beginning to the end. Let me write down what my schedule is and, you know, like go through all the planning process day by day. I really enjoy doing that on a weekly basis. And then after that, I just adjust as I go. But the other thing that I also started keeping track of here on my weekly is when I work out, what my workout will be. So I kind of allow this to be sort of like my fitness tracker, sort of, not really a tracker, but more like my fitness plans, not a tracker. Anything that I want to use for intention for the day. So anything from mindfulness, which I think is very, very, very important, because paying attention to your mental health is going to be so important. So beyond just like your day-to-day stuff of like, you need to pay a mortgage payment, and beyond that really nitty-gritty day-to-day boring stuff, I really like to add an intention. If I'm pulling a card that day, I actually like to write down what I pulled so that I can look back and really see, okay, how did my day go, and then how does that reflect what my intention was. So in that regard, as a mindfulness tool, it's fantastic. But if I'm short on time, I'm not doing any of that. I simply just use the note section. I use my sticky notes and I color coordinate when I can. And if I'm feeling really overwhelmed, I hop over to the section where I have my mind mapping or any mental downloads, and I just let it rip. I would love to hear from you guys. Let me know not only what you would love to learn about when it comes to minimalist planning, if you are new to minimalist planning, but I would also love to know, out of all of the tips that I shared, which one do you gravitate to and which one do you use the most? I would be very curious. Or if you have any tips that, you know, perhaps could help me when you're short on time, I would love to hear it. That's all I have for you guys. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. And if you did, you already know what to do. You can support the channel by subscribing and hitting the notification bell. That way you get notified every single time that I release a new video. And in the meanwhile, just keep planning, you guys. And I cannot wait to see you in my next one. Bye.